Welcome back to the Elders Inspire Awe podcast, where elderhood is understood as the very frontier of human evolution. My name is Myra Tara, and this podcast is brought to you by the Hearers Hermitage and the Sacred Mother Elders Council. Today I'm making a 2026 call to action for elder mothers of African heritage. So, when you were young, were you educated well about love, sex, and growing up? Did the elders in your life prepare you for what your body would do before it did it? Before your first period, before sexual feelings arrived, before pregnancy became a possibility? Were you taught how pregnancy actually happens or how life-altering it is to bring a child into the world? Did anyone explain the amount and quality of time, attention, patience, and emotional stability required to raise a physically, emotionally, and socially healthy human being? Were you taught the connection between having children before you're ready and its lifelong impact on your economic situation? If you are a girl, did anyone speak plainly to you about the ways boys and men can be dangerous when it comes to sex? By the time you left home, did you understand the significance of choosing a mate? What a healthy relationship actually looks like, or how love functions both economically and practically? Were you taught how to build a healthy family life? Or that family is the most powerful life-shaping force any of us will ever encounter? Well, I wasn't taught any of this. I had to learn every single one of these things through trial and error, and that learning was excruciating for me and for my family. Even a little information offered at the right time would have made such a profound difference for us. And here's the thing, no one I've asked so far has answered yes to this full set of questions. It is not rare for young people in Black families to leave home completely naive about these most important aspects of being human. According to the data, roughly 2/3 of us, 66% of us, leave home without this most basic information about love, sex, and growing up. This void produces predictable and devastating consequences in our families. Consequences that are entirely preventable, as they are the direct result of leaving young people to figure out the most consequential aspects of being human on their own. Are you feeling me? If we became better at just this one thing, we could cover and protect our young people from some of life's most dire circumstances. This past summer, I had my grandchildren with me for 6 weeks. They are 10, 12, and 16, the most exquisite children you will ever meet by any measure. Well, I'm determined that they will not leave home with the degree of ignorance I carried. It astonishes me how many of us never learned essential life skills that we are meant to learn at home. Things like how to take responsibility for the health of our bodies, how to manage money in a money culture like ours. Capitalism is a money culture. But most importantly, how to form healthy romantic partnerships and how to build healthy, joyful families. I want my grandchildren to know these things, and this call to action is meant to help break this cycle in my family and in yours. So this is the first part of a 3-part call to action. This first part has to do with basic, age-appropriate education for preteens and teens, age-appropriate sex education for preteens and teens. The second part focuses on emerging adults, those between, 18 and 29, and their readiness to build healthy families. The third part introduces a year-long Sacred Mother Elders Council Leadership Academy, but I'll say much more about that at a later date. This podcast is part 1. So one of the hardest truths I've had to accept is that people watched my mentally ill mother struggle and no one stepped in to help scaffold her children. A dozen aunts and many other women in the community took the position of passive observer. Neither of my grandmothers could do it either. Advice was sometimes offered, and a few cryptic warnings were given here and there, and clothes were handed down, but emotional presence was avoided. There was no neglectful intention. What was missing was cultural remembrance. 400 years of life in a fiercely individualistic society stripped us of what in our own tradition would have been an everyday communal response to a family in need. It's also not that we don't care. It's just that to ask trauma survivors to guide the young is to ask us to enter emotional territory we ourselves were never guided through. We are unfamiliar with the intimacy these conversations require. We were never taught how to have intimate conversations. We have no role models to draw from. And so we shy away, too embarrassed to even bring up the subject. And the silence is passed down, not out of cruelty, but from just not knowing how. The consequence, though, is that our young people are left with the big questions they were never meant to answer alone. They discover the feelings in their bodies without guidance about responsibility. Well, that pattern ends in my lineage with me and my grandchildren, and I intend to convince you to end it in yours too. In traditional African societies, elders understood that youthful energy is powerful and that young people must not be left alone to figure it out. They need to be held close during this developmental period until they are mature enough to manage on their own. Elders were companions to the young. They walked alongside them, offering presence and answers, steadiness and guidance, sharing what had already been learned while leaving room for discovery. They provided trusted perspective while attuning carefully to timing and readiness. They were like a trellis supporting a vine's upward growth. Youth were not left to carry their becoming alone. The unspoken vow was, I will stay with you, guide you, and help you, and help you make sense of what you are experiencing until you can stand fully on your own adulthood. What would I give for that? This role was not peripheral. Elder women, particularly elder mothers, played a central and sacred role in preparing young people for relational life. This guidance was ongoing and corrective, and I wish to emphasize never punitive. They were never punished. They relied on clear boundaries felt as care, on emotional steadiness that can tolerate the intensity of young people, and a watchful presence that held the arc of development. When I say elders held the arc of development, what I mean is that they carried the long view of a young person's becoming when the young person could not yet see this. They understood that growth unfolds over time in stages, and that a single moment, good or bad, is never the whole story. Elders remembered where a young person had been, recognized where they were, and stayed oriented toward who they were becoming. This allowed youth to make mistakes without being reduced to their mistakes, and to grow without being rushed. To hold the arc of development means setting boundaries that fit the stage, correcting behavior without shaming, and allowing exploration while protecting them from irreversible harm. It is the steady presence that says, this moment matters, yeah, but it's not the end. Elders carried that timeline, with patience and care until the young had lived long enough to take over. Elders spoke directly and practically about sexuality, partnership, marriage, and parenthood, and their teachings were rooted in joy, not shame. I'm recalling those joyful community mating rituals I used to see on television for African youth who had come of age. It's just joy everywhere. So all of nature runs on powerful and unstoppable systems. The sun, the rain, and earth work together in consistent patterns that sustain life. Human reproduction is no different. It is another such system. It operates with equal force and equal consistency. Every young person with a body deserves to understand this system, beginning with the powerful sexual feelings that arise in their bodies at precisely the ages when those feelings arise, or before. There is no place for shame here, only awe at nature's design. Our ancestors understood this, and we have to reclaim it. We have to. I'm assuming that so many people listening to me understand this because you've had similar experiences as I have. In today's thinking, love, sex, and growing up are split apart. Sex is reduced to biology or recreation, fun. Love is reduced to emotions. And growing up is reduced to economics or legal age. African wisdom, on the other hand, holds these as inseparable. To prepare a youth or young person for adulthood was to prepare them for all of these at the same time. This is a 2026 call to action for elder mothers of African heritage. It is a call to remember, that young people are not meant to raise themselves, and that parents and grandparents or elders play different roles. It is a call to step back into the role of guide wherever this is possible. It's a call to ensure that Black youth do not have to learn intimacy from their peers or love from the media or learn adulthood through big mistakes and harm. When I told my sister that I wanted to teach my grandchildren about love, sex, and growing up, she reminded me that their father is a conservative Muslim and that I should ask his permission. I agreed, and so I wrote out exactly what I would say to him. But as I wrote it, I realized that I had created something larger. I had written a small, heartfelt book that any family can use to begin these conversations. The book is titled Love First, an old-fashioned guide to love, sex, and growing up. It teaches teens and preteens how the human reproductive system works in clear, age-appropriate language. It teaches how to understand the beauty and responsibility of sex and family. Parents, guardians, grandparents, teachers, and community leaders can use this book to guide the young people in their lives. This book is meant to help you refuse to stay silent, to get you past your embarrassment, to help you to become visible again as the elder you are meant to be. Your young people will never forget this important way you covered and protected their future. The book is written in the same caring tone as this podcast, as it derives from my heart of hearts. And I invite you to use it to end the pattern of silence in our families and communities around love, sex, and growing up. The book is available directly through us, and bulk orders are welcome. You can find it at bit.ly, Love First Ends the Silence. If you're familiar with bit.ly links, bit.ly, bit.ly, but it's bit.ly, Love First Ends the Silence. You can find it there, or via the link in the comments on Substack, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. The comments for this podcast will have the link there as well. Substack is the true home for this podcast, so I invite you to please follow us there at Elders Inspire Awe on Substack. You will have access to things there that are not available on the podcast platform, such as some mini courses that we're planning to release by the end of this month. And then for bulk orders of the book, just reach out to us at contactus@heroeshermitage.info. So, in the next podcast, we turn our attention to emerging adults, again, 18 to 29-year-olds, and the guidance they need, for discernment in mate selection, the marriage covenant, and building loving families, the loving families everybody deserves, and the knowledge, giving them the knowledge that they deserve. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I guess you can tell it has meant a lot to me. Until the next time, be well.